from LPI Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. It's R&R on Sports with Uncle Howard Robertson.
His legacy is terrible with regard to the NBA.
Jennifer Conroy.
Anna Kournikova, she's terrible. But how much in endorsements did she have up until Serena now?
And the magnificent Larry Robinson.
Coaching changes. Scott Skiles just broke out and said, I'm out.
It's R&R on Sports.
Let me see those hands again. Hang on now. Hey, everybody jump, 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 jump.
Hello and welcome to a little R&R on Sports. I'm Howard Robertson.
And I'm Jennifer Conroy.
And I am the fantastic, the amazing, the stupendous, the awesome, I'm just Larry Robinson. What's up, y'all? How you doing, America?
All right. You know what? It occurs to me that you better be careful on that stupendous word, because another word might come out.
What's that word?
Stupid. Be a little careful. Be a little careful,
man.
I am just warning you, man.
Oh, man.
So
you just looking out for me.
That's all I'm doing, brother. That's all I do. My life is about looking out for you.
I appreciate that.
Jenny from the block,
your brother's
baby.
keeper?
How you doing?
Special. I'm illin'.
You illin'?
Illin'.
All right.
You coughing and carrying on, hacking and carrying on. You got the H1N1 or something?
I ain't cute today. I don't know how a Jew messed around and got swine flu or something.
You got to look good on the radio, okay?
I'm cute.
All right, look good on the radio.
I need somebody to bring me some coffee and a blanket.
All right, that's why you have interns. Did you send them? Did you send for it?
Oh,
is it on the way?
That.
Yeah.
Tony Romo down.
Romo down.
Well, that's like a normal occurrence.
It didn't take long.
Seriously, he's the only guy I know that every year you can count on him having a season-ending injury.
Yeah,
the season hasn't even
they're
begun.
not saying this is season-ending, are they?
Look, he's going to be out for like 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah,
something like
that.
That's
a while.
We're going to have to get him a handicap sticker.
Cowboys fans are long-suffering, aren't they?
Man.
But they sure are vocal.
Plenty of them in this neck of the woods.
Jerry Jones finally admitted that he was egotistical in the whole situation with Jimmy Johnson. So, I think that's a purging that he's going through. He's trying to break the curse of Jimmy Johnson.
Shoot. You better come correct, cowboy.
Our Mid-South kid, Dak Prescott, is playing very, very well. I hope he keeps it up.
I ain't never met a brother named Dak.
Hey,
I met a Brat, though.
Yeah.
I met a Brat, but I ain't never met a Dak.
We got Dak. We got Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
We taking over the NFL.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
We'll
Mid-South in the house.
Wish them well and hope they do really, really well and represent very well. Serena and Venus won their first-round matches in the U.S. Open.
Sure did.
And
extremely excited about that.
Hopefully that'll be for one or both of them in the doubles, but for one in the singles. Serena.
And I have to tell you, Larry, Hope Solo was terminated.
Sure was.
Well, she quit, too.
Well, she quit after she got terminated.
And they made her cry on camp.
How you going to get fired on your day off? Hope Solo. That's a no-no.
Hot out here.
She's the new Craig.
She should have just lied to the police. It would have been fine.
Oh, yeah.
She should have lied a lock day.
She would have had to been a little different.
Something
a
like
Caucasian boy.
But you know what? She'll beat you down like one.
Yeah.
She ain't scared.
Speaking of Caucasian boys, we're going to talk about that whole Kaepernick situation.
Yes, we're going to come back and talk about that, and that's the extended conversation. So y'all stick around. We got a great LMAO, and we got a great guest, too. Tell them about it real quick.
He's going to be Donald Lassere of the Ali Center here in Louisville, Kentucky.
I almost said here. You're not in Louisville.
I'm not in Louisville anymore. I'm sorry, but nevertheless, my heart is always in Louisville. But yes, we're going to talk about some real interesting things, including the Humanitarian Awards, the Ali Humanitarian Awards.
Another great show.
Yes.
Great hour for you here at R&R on Sports. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Subscribe and share.
And now, A new segment on a little R&R on sports. Fly on the Wall. Giving you a chance to be a fly on the wall and listen in on private conversations and situations involving sports headliners and personalities.
Hello, how may I help you?
Yes, I'd like to apply for my passport.
Great. Let's start with your name, height, and weight.
That would be Colin Kaepernick, 6'4", 230.
And your nationality, sir?
American.
Okay, I'm going to need to check one of the following ethnic boxes for you. Are you white, whitish, cracker, African American, black, blackish, Negro, colored, multiracial, biracial, or other?
I'm African American.
Are you sure?
Sure, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm going to need you to step behind the line and wait just a minute, please.
Why?
It's protocol, sir. And I'm going to need you to step back behind the line.
I need Kawane Leroy Brown to report to Cubicle 5 for AA confirmation.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Kwame Leroy Brown. I'm also minister of the First Baptist Jubilation Congregation. Now, I'll be conducting your survey today. We've got a couple of questions for you. Question number 1, you know what this is?
Yeah, that's an Afro pick.
Okay, I'm going to need you to demonstrate the proper placement of this utensil. Judy, bring me my ruler.
Well,
okay.
I put it in my hair.
Okay, seems to be standing up okay. Next question. Who went and got fired on their day off?
That would be Craig from my favorite movie, Friday.
Oh, very good, very good. Okay, finish this statement. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Very good. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Next question. What do you put on your catfish? Tabasco or Louisiana?
That would be Louisiana, sir.
All right. You got any in the bag over there?
Absolutely, right here.
All right. We're going to use some of that on this catfish I got. Bonus question. What kind of shoes are these?
Woo-hoo! I haven't seen those since my great uncle was at the family reunion. Stacey Adams knob toe with the white stitching.
All right. Congratulations. Perfect score.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Kaepernick. You will be getting your proof of passport in 7 to 10 business days.
Okay.
And one last thing, we're going to need you to rise for the playing of the national anthem.
Oh, man.
This is MJ, and when I'm not in Chicago hanging out with Scotty and the rest of these guys, I'm always listening to R&R on Sports.
Now the party didn't start, so I walked in, and I probably won't leave until the thing ends. But in the meantime, and in between time, if you work your thing, then
glad you got your laugh on that LMAO. We try hard. We try to keep you. We try to keep you motivated and laughing.
You know what I'm saying? Motivated, man. We got to get hyped up in here, man. It's the weekend, baby. What you talking about? What's going on?
How come your voice goes up like that?
I don't know, man. That's like been a trait since I was a kid. It like raise octaves when I get
white boys
excited.
ask you that. Why's your voice going up? How come you're talking high like that? That's what we do when we get excited.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, so much, LMAO is about it. So much is being said about Colin Kaepernick's mode of protest. I know personally how you guys feel about it. I want to start by asking you this. Do you think that this protest will achieve much, if anything?
I hope it does. I hope that it has
you hope it does, but do you think it will?
I think
in your heart of hearts, do you think it will?
I think given the pushback, people are going to be afraid to stand with him or to sit with him, I guess. But it would be powerful if they did.
Well, see, that's what I'm looking for. I would like for the NFL players, especially some of the more high-profile players, the Adrian Petersons, and some of the others, without getting into naming names. But I'd like them to sit down with him, especially if they feel that way. I don't want him to be out there by himself because what he's sitting down for is very valid, very real, and very true.
Agreed.
And the thing is what's so irritating to me is that ESPN has had a consistent stream of Caucasians commenting on this issue.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't really think
Boomer Esiason said it was the highest, most disrespect that a player could possibly make.
So
Somebody
when
needs to shut
a
his mouth.
song and a flag becomes more important than a person's life, I got a serious problem with that.
Or constitutional right.
Or constitutional right for that matter. But you got Jim Harbaugh. I mean, I want to hear, if you're going to talk to some people, I want some people that have walked in Colin Kaepernick's shoes.
Absolutely.
I want the LeBron Jameses of the world. I want the Dwayne Wades. I want the Jim Browns. I want the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars. I want those individuals. They have the valid position of saying, I know what you've gone through. I agree or disagree, and here's why. But I could care less what Jim Harbaugh says.
Agreed.
I could care less what Boomer Esiason says. I could care less. I think, I do have to give props to Stan Verrett. He talked about the fact of what African-American men have to deal with and then turn around and be required to or expected to stand for a flag and a song that it literally talks about killing our ancestors if they get out of line.
Well, Land of the Free and Home of the Brave is talking about an era of American history where a good portion of the population was not free.
That's
to
the
this
point.
day, we're not free. I mean, and we're not talking about that. I mean, when you talk about the education system, when you talk about the mass incarceration,
Incarcerations.
when you talk about the death of the Alton Sterlings of the world, the Philando Castiles, the Laquan McDonalds, when you start to look at all those different situations, and then you talk about looking at Thabo Cephalosha, what took place in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some serious issues in this country that everyone is not getting to participate.
I agree.
And it doesn't
Now-
matter the fact of what kind of money he makes.
Well, yeah, it does matter.
It matters because
matters,
he has a platform.
and that's,
he has a
and
platform,
that's what makes,
and I think that's what makes it valid.
Well, that's what makes what he is doing so courageous.
Absolutely.
Because let's
Well,
look at it.
valid,
Let's
but
look
courageous.
at it. $12 million this year he's going to be paid, and that ain't nothing to sneeze at, okay?
No, that's generational wealth.
It could be all he had to do was follow suit and do what he had always been doing and just stand up with everybody else and, just make his money and do his thing and try to win a starting role or whatever. His life could have been a lot simpler. He chose to make it a lot different. I got mad respect, all the respect in the world for him relative to that. Because
he's a good Kappa man. Good Kappa man. I got to give him the props. Yo, baby.
In every field of human endeavor.
67% of NFL players are African American, and if they all decided to walk off the field for one game,
Won't happen.
It won't happen, but if it did, the NFL would cease to exist.
Won't happen. And what he's
that's
seen,
another question, because I'm wondering with the injuries and things that's happened, if the NFL will cease to exist in the way that we know it in the next few years.
that ain't gonna happen either.
If you look at it, look at here with Teddy Bridgewater, with his injury, with Romo, with the money they're paying these guys, we are going to have to figure out a way that quarterbacks aren't in the midst of so much chances.
Yeah,
of injury.
there'll be some.
gotta-
But I'm
There'll be
flipped
some
the subject right there,
alterations.
but
There'll be
please
some
digress.
alterations.
Forgive
but
me.
I'm
Back to Kaepernick.
And I said this before. It was not unusual back in my day, back in the 60s, late 60s through the 70s, after the 68 Olympics and Carlos and Smith did what they did on the platform. It was not unusual at all for us as college students to go to a game, to attend a game and not to stand for the national anthem. And I was telling you earlier, many of us who did stand would stand and put up the power sign. And it was an interesting thing back then, because now I think we have some recent, I call it faux patriotism. I call it a new patriot where you got to put your hand over your heart. That was never the case.
No.
Do you put your hand, if you're a Christian, do you put your hand over your heart every time you see the cross? No. Should the United States government take any precedence over whoever you consider to be your Lord and Master? No. So I mean, this is new. This is new stuff. I mean, people, I think, fronting, trying to show their extraordinary patriotism and whatnot.
The First Amendment.
Hold on a second. Okay. It's got nothing whatsoever to do, in case there's somebody out there thinking, it's got nothing whatsoever to do with military personnel, families, and whatnot who have sacrificed their lives or blood and on behalf of this country. That's got nothing whatsoever to do with them. He has all the, I'm sure, the respect in the world for them.
What gets me is this whole thing around First Amendment. And, you want to talk about the freedom of speech and the freedom of voice your opinion. It's okay until you say something that's in a disagreement with me.
Right.
So, as long as I am the arbiter of what is patriotic as an individual, and that really bothers me when we got a document that literally says that what being an American is all about.
And he has not broken any rules. By the way, the NFL does not require you to stand. They suggest that you stand. They would like for you to, but it's not a requirement.
No. Well, it's not a requirement anywhere.
Absolutely.
So, lots to say about that, but we have another expert on a person coming up, and that would be Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
Brother Donald Lassere, who is president and CEO of the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, is our guest on ICONversation. We'll be back with that and with him right after this.
So hold on tight with all your might, cause I'll be rocking like this for the rest of the night. It's Jalil, your master rapper. And when I'm on the mic, it's a sheer disaster. Cause MCs crumble when we rumble. Some think I'm soft just because I'm humble. So all you MCs, I hope you're real good.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
Nah, we landed on the Blue Ball Sports Show with Sheff and Smith.
I'm Jason Smith.
I'm Michael Sheffield.
We'll be talking Memphis Tigers basketball,
Memphis Grizzlies basketball,
and a whole lot more.
The Blue Ball Sports Show,
part of the Katsukian Network.
Rolling down the street with my radio on, listen to Funky Politics.
The mayor of the city of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Laid back with my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Dr. Sharon Griffith. Hey, Doc, how are you?
Good afternoon.
What you say, Grandpa?
Did he call me Grandpa?
We keep it real, we keep it right, and we keep it funky.
Funky Politics, part of the Katsukian Network.
Hi, this is Tweeka Catchings, and you're listening to R&R on Sports.
And we're back with our ICONversation segment, and today the icon is Muhammad Ali, and we are thrilled to have with us the president and CEO of the Muhammad Ali Center, Mr. Donald Lassere. Donald, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored and privileged to be talking to you today.
Definitely. Now, I'm looking at your bio. And man, let me tell you something. You have gotten some great checks. This is a who's who. You were previously with Gallup Worldwide, with Enron, with Ernst & Young, Bell Atlantic, which became Verizon, and some electric company.
This is a bad brother.
I'm telling you.
This is a bad brother.
So how does this bad brother end up in Louisville?
Hold on. Dono, Boombaye. Dono, Boombaye. My fault.
Well, so while I, been in many corporate jobs and doing a lot of things in the corporate world, my last position was in a not-for-profit working in education. So I became very passionate about making an impact on society. Mm-hmm. And when the opportunity came to work with Muhammad Ali and the Muhammad Ali Center, it was like a dream come true, because the impact that Muhammad Ali had on me while I was growing up and on my community while I was growing up is almost immeasurable. And so to have that opportunity to work with him, to work with the center and maintain and preserve his legacy was extremely important to me.
Now, you can't gloss over that. When you were growing up, where in your community?
I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Hey.
All right.
Right? And so Muhammad, of course, was one of the first African Americans that came out and said, hey, I'm beautiful by any measure. And so that resonated in the community that I grew up in, right?
Right.
And
actually, he said he was pretty, right?
He said I'm pretty. That's right. And so, you know, every person in my community, especially, you know, young males like myself, we kept going around saying, yo, I'm pretty. I know it. So, and it was following his lead, right?
Right.
But that self-esteem that he gave us really carried me through and enabled me, in part, you know, with the help of my parents and family, to get to where I got to.
Listen, this is R&R on Sports, and we're talking to the president and CEO of the Ali Center. That's the Muhammad Ali Center, Dr. Donald Lassere. I don't know. I just gave you a doctor title. I don't even know if you got any PhD or anything, but we're going to call you Doc. Well,
that's okay.
All right, Donald. When in taking a position of holding that position in Louisville, that's got to be a pretty prestigious place in our community. And being a Louisvillian myself, how do you handle that, and how is it different? How's it changed from the moment you before Ali's death and afterwards?
So, being from Louisville, you know that Louisville, while it's a relatively big city, it's a small city in some respects. So the most important thing I can say about being in Louisville and being effective here is that you have to be a Louisvillian, a proud Louisvillian.
Absolutely.
And I have become that. And so one of the things that I did with the center from a strategic standpoint was to make sure that the center was connected to the community of Louisville. And I have, you know, from my perspective, been effective because I've been very much accepted and I've very much embraced the city of Louisville because it's a fantastic place.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely. Now, once again, has the job changed from before Ali's death to afterwards?
It has, but you know, his death is still so new to us that the impact hasn't really resonated to the job yet. It has in that while the memorial service was going on, we had to play host to the world.
Right.
And
you guys did a fantastic job.
Beautiful job.
Thank you. And doing that sort of has raised the profile of the center. We just have had masses of people come in. I mean, we have a store here.
That's what I was going to ask you. Has attendance spiked this summer, or did it spike this summer?
Oh, okay. Yo, it was crazy.
Okay.
You know, while we were somewhat prepared, it was something we really couldn't prepare for. I mean, we couldn't keep product on our shelf. You know, our visitor services staff were at times overwhelmed. You know, it was just an overwhelming experience, to be honest with you. But we've sort of gotten grounded. We hired a new person, you know, to help us out. You know, your team was talking about how you can come down and sort of be a greeter for us. So we're looking forward to that.
Right, that's my life ambition.
Give him a vest. Give him a vest.
Greeter at the door at the Muhammad Ali Center.
I'll work with him and make sure he doesn't break any verbs, split any participles.
Right.
Ali was so prolific in his activism, and there are so many social issues going on today. Is it hard to keep that a part of the conversation aside from his being a beautiful boxer in the ring? Is that something that you're really pushing?
Absolutely. So the center here is really based around Muhammad's life outside the ring, for the most part. We are built around his 6 core principles of confidence, giving, respect, spirituality, dedication, and confidence. And so we have pavilions built around those core principles we're extending that to new exhibits, and of course, what we do outside of the center, for example, our Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Awards, really focus on what he did to change the world as a non-athlete, as a humanitarian, as an activist.
Right.
That's our focus.
Right.
So many people compare athletes now to Ali in terms of activism and the things like Colin Kaepernick and not rising for the national anthem and looking at the space in between. Do you think that Ali would have had support for Kaepernick?
I think, based on what I know of Muhammad and what I've observed about Muhammad, is that Muhammad would believe that a person should have the right to do what they need to do to get their message out. And if I could tell you just an anecdote of mine, one of my favorite things about Muhammad is when he made his conscientious objection, afterwards he did an interview with a British reporter, and he was asked, well, don't you hate the people that did, quote unquote, that to you in terms of taking away your livelihood, your ability to fight? And Muhammad said, no, if I did that, I would be a hypocrite. If I hated them, I would be a hypocrite because they were doing what they thought they had to do, and I was doing what I thought I had to do. So that lets you know what he would think about Kaepernick's, objection.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's very Nelson Mandela-ish.
Absolutely.
In terms of that, and that's the sign of a big person.
Right.
So tell us about the Humanitarian Awards. I mean, you guys have your big, I'm sure, your signature fundraiser, and I think it's in the 4th year, right?
Yes, it's our 4th year, and what we were trying to do with these awards and what the intent of them is to really shine a light on individuals around the world, 30 and under, who are doing amazing things. For example, our youngest winner was last year. It was a 13-year-old girl from Afghanistan who was making a stand against forced marriage. So think about that, right? So this year we are having 6 awardees for each of Muhammad's 6 core principles, and with them we have higher level award winners. Generally speaking, some of them are celebrities. This year I'm honored and proud to say that we have Lou Gossett Jr. And as an awardee. His cause is racism, so how appropriate is that? We have Shirley Ralph and John Sakata. Both of them have been fighting, getting the message out about HIV/AIDS around the world. Very important. And then we have Cindy McCain, the wife of John McCain, who is a great humanitarian. So again, you could see that we're looking at the world like Muhammad will look at the world, and awarding people who come from all different aspects of life. So that's why these awards are as impactful as they are.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
How do you, and you talked about the whole educational component and all of that.
Right.
How do you communicate to young people now that could be from the immediate Louisville area, how to be global?
See, that's a great question. So we have 3 primary program areas. They're global citizenship, education, and gender equality. And there's a nexus between all of those. So you take the immediate Louisville area. We have had exhibits where we invite JCPS, which is our public school system, students to come into the center. We pay for them to see the exhibits. So we've had exhibits on global shoes, for example, where we had shoes from all over the world so that these kids can try on the shoes. They can see how people around the world live. And so that's how we get them to think bigger than just Louisville.
That's powerful.
Oh, yeah.
That's powerful. That reminds me, I'm looking at Jennifer.
I know exactly
that reminds me of the Holocaust Museum. I don't know if you've ever been there.
I have,
They have a train car full of shoes.
Right.
This is R&R on Sports, and we're speaking with Donald Lassere, President and CEO of the Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hello, everybody. This is Tim Brown, 2015 NFL Hall of Fame inductee, and you are listening to R&R on Sports.
It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a strong rhyme to step to. Think of how many weeks shows you slept through. Time's up. I'm sorry I kept you thinking of this. You keep repeating your miss.
This is R&R on Sports, and we're speaking with Donald Lassere, President and CEO of the Muhammad Ali Center in my hometown, Louisville, Kentucky.
So we have a photographic contest where people submit photos from all over the world. We pick a specific subject matter that deals specifically with gender equality. This year, it was a girl's right to education. So we have these beautiful photographs of these women struggling to be educated. My favorite was a black and white photo of two young girls from India on a railroad track in the middle of the day, blistering hot, and one girl was teaching her younger sister how to read.
Wow. Wow. That is fantastic.
Educate girls, you change the world.
This is R&R on Sports, and we're listening to, we're interviewing Mr. Donald Lassere, President and CEO of the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky.
So, I'm loving this because Ali became who and what he was at a time when there was very, very little globalism for a black kid from Louisville. And now, and it reminds me of what we just saw in terms of the Olympics, and particularly how African-American women really, really took commanding global positions in their respective sports. So does what just happened with the Olympics help your cause any, help you get the point over, help you in your educational process with young people?
Well, yeah, absolutely, because what you see happening in the Olympics, you take Simone Biles, for example, doing what she's doing, being called the greatest of all time, and you read her side story. You can talk to kids about that, right? It's important that they see examples that look like them, that come from the place that they came from. Because, again, when I'm growing up, I'm looking at Muhammad Ali. You know, he's from Louisville. He didn't grow up in, like, a mansion or anything, right? He had to work hard for everything he got. You see these young ladies, and they're saying that. And it's important, particularly in our community, that there are examples of young women doing great things and being great spokespeople. So I think that's extremely important. And we do use them as an example when we talk to young people.
I also think it's something, the women of color and being strong and beautiful and owning that had to be something that was close to Muhammad Ali's heart, because he had daughters that are beautiful, strong athletes.
Absolutely. And, well, it's no more evident than him putting basically his life in the hands of his wife, Lonnie Ali. She ran his business, then she became his caretaker. And so he, toward the end of his journey, his life was basically structured by strong, powerful women.
Right.
Particularly his wife. So let me tell you what we're going to do. We are opening an exhibit called Race Are We So Different, which we think is very pertinent in today's society, that children learn specifically about why we aren't so different just because of the color of our skin.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So we're going to have upwards of 10,000 JCPS students, Jefferson County Public School students, come to the center, learn about Muhammad Ali. We got a grant from UPS that's going to allow us to do this, so that we'll bring these kids in. They'll learn about Muhammad's 6 core principles. they'll be able to do some things here at the center where they can apply those 6 core principles that they just learned about, and then see the race exhibit. And you can imagine the dialogue that they will be able to have once they have contact with Muhammad's journey through these principles, and then seeing that, hey, I'm not so different than the person I sit next to in school, even if they are a different color than I am, or they speak a different language than I do. So what we want to do with what we're doing here in the center, particularly with young people, is get them to understand that there is a oneness that they should be seeking with humanity.
Now, one thing is for sure, and many people don't talk about it in Louisville, which I think is quite interesting, is that the spirituality issue was a major hurdle for a lot of African Americans in the Louisville, especially in the West End, because it's such a large Christian community. How do you guys handle that piece with Muhammad Ali being an outspoken Muslim and Louisville being a very heavily Christian, African American Christian community?
So here is something that is really interesting and amazing about Muhammad. If you saw his memorial service, every religion that you could think of for the most part was represented at his memorial service, right?
Right.
So what we try to get people to understand is that Muhammad cared about spirituality, right? He didn't necessarily want people to convert to Islam. He wanted people to know that Islam is a religion of peace, but he also wanted them to respect all religions.
Absolutely.
And that is very well thought out and very well done in our spirituality pavilion.
Now, do you find that, speaking of that, do you find that Muslims are attracted, a lot of them are attracted to your center based on his being a Muslim?
So when his memorial service is that week, we had, I think, there were thousands and thousands of Muslims that came to the center.
Wow.
Yeah, there were thousands. They were coming from out of town. Louisville has a relatively small but growing Muslim community, but we do have a lot of Muslim visitors. And so one of the things that we do here, which I'm proud to say we'll do tomorrow, for example, is we're having the naturalization service here at the center.
Oh, wow.
Where we'll have 300 to 400 citizens, new citizens, here at the center. And you know the kind of vitriol that's
Could not be a better place. Oh my God, that's awesome.
A lot of them are Muslims too.
That's fantastic.
Have you found that invites violence or the need for security at the center?
We do have security here at the center, but we don't really think about that in terms of, being fearful. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, right? And so that's
and you said that to say you said that to say what?
You were raised in Chirac.
Well,
Is that what you said?
I mean,
you ain't scared.
What he's saying, y'all, is Donald ain't no punk.
Yeah.
So y'all, better recognize. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
No, but you grow up in certain communities and you get used to a certain level of, just it is what it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so you can't think that way. Like I tell people every day, you only think you're safe.
Right.
Yeah.
This is true.
It's very true.
This is true.
So,
now,
wait a minute. So we gotta really get in about the particulars on the Humanitarian Awards, because I would love everybody to make a pilgrimage to Louisville and check out these awards. So Donald, can you tell them about the date and the other information that might be pertinent?
Absolutely. It's September 17th, starting at 6 p.m. at the downtown Marriott here in Muhammad's hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. It is a great event. We'll have some great performances. And it is truly inspiring when you see what sub-30-something-year-old people are doing to change the world. It is amazing.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. My last thing, I want to ask you this. Muhammad was a brilliant man. Muhammad, on the other hand, he was also an eloquent man. He was, on the other hand, not a highly educated man. Would you talk about that? Would you talk about how much education he had and how you think he came to be so brilliant despite not as much formal education as most people have?
Well, you know, if you read the history of Muhammad, he made it pretty clear that he struggled in school. Mm-hmm. But he was extremely brilliant. And, you know, not everyone is meant to go to college. That doesn't mean that they aren't brilliant from a intellectual perspective. Mm-hmm. And so it was very clear that he was brilliant. You know, one of his quotes was, listen, and he promoted education. Right. One of his quotes was, if they could make penicillin out of moldy bread, think about what they could do for you. So that lets you know he thought about that, right? Right. But he didn't have to have that formal education, you know, because some brilliance is just innate, and his was innate.
Yep.
Interesting.
And a lot of the most brilliant people struggle in school.
Absolutely.
Well, we know you struggle, Jen.
I struggle on a daily basis. I mean, being the token white girl up in here is not easy at all.
But no, I think that's important, particularly for the kids. Again, I mean, the best example, teaching, I mean, best mode of teaching is teaching by example and exposure. So that's a fantastic opportunity that you have. Donald, we want to thank you for being with us here on R&R on Sports.
You're forgetting the last question.
Thank you.
It's not my last question.
You want me to give you my last question?
Yes.
It's the Louisville last question. Well, okay, the last question is, Donald, every hero needs theme music. You're going out for your last, you're retiring, you're going out on the shield, they carrying you across the city of Louisville. What music, what are they playing? What's blasting out the loudspeakers?
Oh, man, that's a hard question. Oh, wow.
Like Lou Rawls, because he's from the South Side?
Muhammad.
Muhammad Ali. I go all over the place, man. Seriously, honestly, I can go with some R&B, like some Luther.
Some Luther.
Vandross,
it's your party.
You know.
It's your party. Pick one.
Man, you got to pick one.
Oh, man. So it would have to be some Tupac.
Woo! There we go.
Sorry.
Love it. No, sorry.
Yeah, it would have to be some Tupac.
Nice.
The museum man picking Tupac.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It would have to be Tupac.
That makes me happy.
That is great. That is great. Well, thank you very much. We hope to have you on again in the future, if you would be so kind. We'd appreciate it.
I'm coming, Donald. I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming to the Ali Center, and I'm gonna look you up.
All right.
Get that vest out for him. He needs a job.
I will.
All right. We'll be back with more R&R on Sports right after this.
Hate to sound sleazy, but tease me. I don't want it if it's that easy. Hey, yo, bust it. Baby, got a problem saying bye-bye. Just another hazard of a fly guy.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
Now we landed on the Blue Ball Sports Show with Sheffin Smith.
I'm Jason Smith.
I'm Michael Sheffield.
We'll be talking Memphis Tigers basketball,
Memphis Grizzlies basketball,
and a whole lot more.
The Blue Ball Sports Show.
Part of the Godzukian Network.
This brings us to the end of yet another wonderful edition of R&R on Sports.
Ciao. We out. I'll let you later.
I would just let y'all say. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Your time.
Arrivederci.
Your time.
Sayonara.
What we got going out? What kind of parting words do you have for America?
What the parting words I have for America is seek to understand before being understood. Seek to understand before being understood. Because I think a lot of times we get so caught up in our feelings and expressing our feelings, we don't take the time to hear where the other person is coming from. If you listen to Colin Kaepernick and what he's saying, there's no way you can't find some form of understanding in his comments. So that's all I would have to say.
I'm going to drop a little Voltaire on folks, and it is, I may disagree with you, but I will fight to the death your right to say it.
All right.
Especially when it comes to constitutional rights.
Who said that? Fred Sanford?
Some old French white guy.
Voltaire. All right. That is so true. I'm glad we're having these discussions, but America ain't ready for it. America ain't ready for it.
I think now America has to get ready for it.
Amen.
This is like the drunk uncle that you like to keep.
They've been kicking racism. They've been kicking the can down the road all these years, and it still exists.
I'm telling you, it's
still
like the
there
drunk
very
uncle
much. And it's worse.
That only comes out at the family
to embarrass
cookout.
you
And eats off your plate.
And racism is that. Now the drunk uncle is at the senior piece of the party, and he's now have to be out there. So now we got to deal with it.
And if you haven't already, read all of the stanzas of your national anthem.
All right. And with that, we're going to say have a great week. We're going to be right back here next week with another great show.
Absolutely.
Here on R&R on Sports. Go on, check us out.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Download us. Have a great week. Y'all be safe.
We out.
LL's your name. The creators, Cool J is. You bring the woodpecker, I'll bring the wood. The bells are whipping and ripping at your body and soul. Why do you like Cool J? It ain't rock and roll.
R&R on Sports is recorded live at LPI Studios in the heart of Memphis, Tennessee.
Web designer Daniel Coates. Executive producer Larry Robinson. Written by Howard Robertson. And produced by Reggie Fine.
R&R on Sports, part of the Good Network.